Guys ever thought about the concept of fighting friends? There's some guys that is a hard line. Not only would they not do it, but if they found out that you would do it, they would look down on you. They go, "Where's your loyalty?" Even if you weren't in the same group of friends as them, if they just heard that you were going to go fight a former teammate or a guy that you consider a friend, they would just look down on you. Use Gilbert Melendez by example. Him and the Scrap Pack, the Diaz boys, Jake Shields. If you even talked that way, they'd think you were saying a foreign language. And I bring this up because Cowboy, who's rematching Pettis, which, by the way, is going to be a great fight, but Cowboy, who's rematching Pettis, said my friend, Anthony Pettis, he was talking about their first fight, kicked the liver out of my body. And Darren Till did some interview somewhere. He was talking about fighting some friend, and then they'll go and get a beer afterwards. And it's just a thing that I don't know that I have an opinion on that. Like, I really respect Gil and Nate and Nick and Jay. I really respect that bond that they had. But I will tell you that we had a different theory at Team Quest, which was you just compete against anybody at any time. And that was just the theory. And I think that came largely from like a wrestling mentality. If you're in the room with a group of wrestlers, they're your teammates, but you're going to have to wrestle off just to get the varsity spot. So the guy that you train with every day, who could even be your roommate, you could be really good you got to ride over to the, warm up, put your gear on, and then go out in front of a referee and compete. And when it's done, then you got to go back to training and helping the guy. So it's just one of these weird things where everybody has a different theory behind it. But, I came up and I was coached by Matt Lindland at 17. We were very close. Matt was a year out of college. I was a junior in high school. And Matt had world and Olympic dreams. And those are very tough when you're a young guy because you're training all the time, which pays absolutely nothing. When are you supposed to have a job that does pay something? There's answers to this, but at some point you got to sleep. At some point you got to have some time to get something. It's just a really tough thing. And you largely live off of sponsors, other people that believe in your dream and get behind you. And one of those guys that believed in Matt's dreams was my dad. And I remember Matt and I flew out to Arizona, to Phoenix, Arizona State University, for a tournament called the Sunkiss Tournament. But it was one of the biggest tournaments of the year. It was an international tournament. Russians would fly a couple of guys in. The Canadians would send a whole big team. It was this international affair, but all the Americans would come. And it was the first tournament of the year. And it was kind of viewed as the preseason national tournament, if you will. You kick things off and then you start to peak and get yourself in shape and go from there. But at any rate, my dad paid for Matt's trip to go out there. So the night before, and Matt and I are the same weight class. The night before, we go out to dinner. We have a great dinner, a great meal. We get to the arena the next day. Matt and I warm up together. And after the warm up, Matt looks at me and goes, "Have you seen the bracket yet?" I said, "No, I didn't know the brackets were out." He goes, "Oh." He said, "Yeah, you got a pretty tough one first round." And I said, "Oh, yeah? Who do I got?" Well, that's when I realized I have him. I have Matt. So, we went out there together. My father paid for it. My father's sitting in the stands. We all went to dinner the night before. We warmed up together, and then he reveals to me that I have him. And he's helping me warm up. It was just a different mentality. So we get into this match, and in Greco-Roman wrestling, if you had a 10-point lead, the match is over. And the most devastating technique in all of Greco-Roman wrestling would be known as a 5-point throw. You'd be awarded 5 points for it. It would be a belly-to-back throw. So Matt has a 9-point lead over me. He only needs one more point. And he can do anything to me. I work out with this guy every day. He can do anything to me to get that point. He chooses to side lift, pick me off the mat, rotate my body, and throw me for 5. Okay, he only had to get one more point. He chose to get 5 more points. Now, there's a message in this, though. And the message was, for right now, you are my opponent. I score as many points as I can, as quickly as I can, however I choose to get them. And I only share that with you because I always appreciated that message. And from that match forward, I'm now in the backside. Matt goes on and wins the tournament, but he was in my corner for every single match. I also entered the freestyle part of the tournament. He was in my corner for every single match. It was just a matter of you competed with whoever you had whenever you had them. So I don't think that it's a weird thing, my own opinion, that Cowboy would refer to Pettis as his friend while getting ready to go and rematch him and stop Pettis from his dream of propelling through the division. I also wouldn't think it's weird that Pettis is going back out there against Cowboy to do the exact same thing.